Hello, everyone. Hope you're having a fantastic day. My name is Kmart, and I want to talk about some basketball. And today, we are talking once again about the fabled, the legendary, the ever elusive Damian Lillard trade here, because there has been what we qualify as news, I guess, in the Damian Lillard trade. Not really, but something to talk about at least. And it's been like, a whole week since we've talked about this unbelievably dumb trade. So, you know, contractual obligations force us to talk about it again, as there was word, rumors, some such. Shams Charania reported that there was a reported sort of new offer or new package that Miami was sort of dangling out here and trying to maybe get interest from Portland with. And well, we'll might as well just throw what the trade package was. We'll put it up on the screen for you right now. The rumor was from Miami to Portland was somewhere in the realm of 3 to 4 first round picks. First round pick swaps. They weren't necessarily clear how many of those. Tyler Hero, either directly to Portland or to a third team if it's a 3-team trade. That wasn't really clear either. And then expiring contracts. Again, not specified exactly who. You'd guess probably Kyle Lowry is the biggest expiring that they've got. And then young players, which is another relatively vague term. Most people have understood this to mean guys like maybe Nikola Jovic, guys like Jaime Jaquez Jr., guys like that. Um, there's some people throwing around names like Duncan Robinson in there, but Duncan Robinson is not young by NBA standards. I think he's like 27 or 28 or something like that. So he's younger than some of the other guys who could be involved in the trade. But when they say young players, you kind of assume they're still talking about guys on like their rookie scale contracts, right? So maybe Robinson is a little bit too far outside of that to count, but he could be included in here as well for all we know. And that's kind of the problem with this scenario, right? I just outlined what the trade package looks like. Other than Tyler Hero and first round picks, do you know exactly what any of those other terms meant? Because I don't. Nobody does. Those terms were intentionally vague, and that's kind of been the issue the whole time with this trade scenario. And all this new little bit of news, it's all still kind of bullshit. There's very little actual news to report here. There seems to be very little actual movement towards a Damian Lillard trade. The Heat continue to offer as little as they think they can get away with, and Portland continues to try and hold out and not engage them in the most serious negotiations in the world, right? I'm not saying that Portland is just blocking all of Miami's communications entirely, but they are trying their best to sort of coax more and more out of Miami, and one of the means by which they do that is to not express too much enthusiasm over this trade in the first place. So that does become an issue, right? The terms here are simply too vague for anyone to work with, right? As I said, 3 to 4 first round picks, that part's pretty straightforward. But for first round pick swaps, what years, how many? You didn't say. Does Tyler Hero go to Portland or to a third team? We're not sure. You didn't say. Who are the expiring contracts specifically that you're offering? Who are the young players specifically that you're offering? All of this has been kind of floated out there, and people have kind of filled in the gaps, as I mentioned before. I said when I went through that list, who the expirings probably will be, who the young players probably will be. But the fact of the matter is that that information is all coming from people trying to fill in the gaps themselves, not necessarily from an actual official offer that Miami has made here. So we don't have confirmation of who any of those pieces would be. And the problem is that these two teams are basically still trying to play a game of negotiating chicken. Miami wants to know, the question that they're asking is, what does Portland want? They say, Portland, tell us what you want. Tell us the players you want, tell us how many picks you want, etc., etc. They want to know that information so that they can offer the bare minimum package that meets that asking price. And then they can say, hey, Portland, this is what you asked for, this is what we'll give you. And if you ask for more than that, well, then public perception turns to Portland being greedy, because Portland said that they wanted X, we offered X, now you're saying you want, X plus some other stuff. On the Portland side of things, they're basically asking the question, what is Miami willing to give up? Right? They want to know, hey, what is your offer? We'll look at that offer and then we'll decide, are we okay with that, or do we want less? Do we want more? Do we want different? It wants to set the price for Damian Lillard as high as possible, because Lillard is debatably the best player to ever play for the Trailblazers. He's definitely top 2. I think we've sort of mentioned that before. Maybe you still put Clyde Drexler a little bit higher than him, but he's top 2 no matter what here. And you're trading him away. You want the maximum possible return. So you don't want to set a price if you can get more. You want to know the absolute maximum that Miami is willing to part with before you start making those negotiations actually happen. And so now you see why we are where we are. Miami wants to know exactly what Portland wants so that they can offer that and nothing more. And Portland wants to know what's the maximum that Miami is willing to give up so that we can aim for that maximum. And nobody's budging so far, right? We have not seen anyone really come to the table and sacrifice any of their leverage or any of their assets here to build that trust. And without the trust between the two teams, trade negotiations aren't going to go any further forward. So we're just going to get stuck in this loop of an unofficial trade package will be leaked to the media via someone in Miami's front office, and then Portland will leak that they're not impressed by the offer, and then we'll go back and forth. And all of this could be skipped if the two teams would just sit their asses down and actually communicate with each other in a real manner, not in a what do you want? Well, what do you want? Well, what do you want? Sort of thing, because that gets us absolutely nowhere. So, yeah. Basically, there has been no news on the trade front. It's weird to make a video about that, but I did want to sort of say something because people have been hyping up this last bit of quote-unquote news about the trade as if it meant something, and as of right now, I don't think it does. It still leaves us in the same scenario that we were before, where there's not really any significant movement here from either of the two teams. And at this point, it is worth revisiting sort of the position of those two teams, because my opinion is still largely unchanged from where it was before. If you had watched some of the previous videos I made about this Lillard trade, I still say that if Miami actually wants Damian Lillard on their roster for the 2023-2024 season, then they just need to get this deal done. Get this deal done. Stop trying to skimp out and save, one first round pick or one player, one young guy, right? Don't hold all this up for Jovic or Hockey's Jr. with these weird non-negotiation tactics, right? And I know there's going to be a lot of people, especially Miami fans, who will take exception to that. And they'll say, well, we should be trying to maximize value, to only give up the bare minimum, right? That's how good teams stay good. They maintain their assets. They don't send players away for nothing. And I understand that. That is true. But you're the team that wants Lillard. Portland really doesn't want to trade him to you, really doesn't have much incentive to trade him to you. You're the one who wants him, which means you inherently have a little bit less leverage. And because of that, you might have to give up a little bit more than you would want to make this deal happen. That's the problem right now. Miami's still trying to go about this like this is a fair and balanced and level playing field, and they're trying to quote-unquote win the trade. The win will be getting Damian Lillard. If you're trying for more on top of that, then you risk losing the prize in the first place. Because, again, Portland, they don't really have to be in a rush here. I think that's the thing about the scenario that we're all forgetting. In previous situations like this, the team trading away their star player feels the pressure to do so, right? Because the player in question is either in the final year of their contract or getting close to it or has, a player option, stuff like that, right? Where in anywhere between 1 to 2 years, your player could walk for nothing, right? If they go in free agency, you get zero assets back and you lose him, so you have to trade him. We have seen that scenario play out over and over and over again in the NBA. It's a tried and true system. But Lillard isn't in that scenario. He's still signed for 3 more years if you include this current one, and then he's got a player option for a fourth year beyond that. So Portland really doesn't have a crazy amount of pressure. Portland does not have to trade Lillard in this offseason to avoid losing him as a free agent. He's still signed for quite a while beyond that point. So, if you don't trade him, yes, Damian Lillard will be upset. He will raise a stink. He will spend the entire regular season making it a problem for you. But honestly, the relationship between Lillard and Portland, or at least the front office, seems like it's already broken beyond repair at this point. I don't think that he can get any more upset with you than he already is. And I think that the idea that Portland is maybe hurting its reputation in this whole ordeal only goes so far, right? In the previous videos, I did mention, a lot of other players in the league might be looking at the way that Portland handles this, the way that they treat Lillard on his way out, and make some judgments, draw some conclusions about Portland as an organization that could, maybe hurt their reputation in the future. But that's kind of changed, right? With the way that Miami's negotiating, with the news that came out about Damian Lillard's agent talking to other teams and telling them not to trade for him, even though Lillard's people and his agent denies that they ever did any of that, which does anyone believe that genuinely? Because, but with some of that news coming out, I think public perception has sort of shifted, and the perception of teams and players has shifted. I'm not going to say into Portland's favor, but that idea that people are maybe going to start bad-mouthing Portland for not treating Lillard right in this trade negotiation, that might kind of go away because Lillard and his people have started doing some shady stuff here. So if you're Portland, that's a weight off of your shoulders. That's a pressure point that's no longer something that you need to necessarily worry about here, and that makes them even less likely to pull the trigger in a hasty fashion to try and get this trade done. They still are going to dig in and try to get maximum value. So this could still get more complicated. That's not even mentioning the fact that other teams might still end up getting involved in this one way or another. Technically speaking, teams could still be looking for Dame directly. I know that the narrative has really sort of pared it down to just the Heat, but other teams might still be looking, especially after the league sent out that memo that put an end to those implications, quote unquote, that Lillard wouldn't play for another team. The league kind of just came in and said, hey, no, you cannot say that. So maybe some teams get more interested in a direct trade for Damian Lillard. I think that's still kind of unlikely to happen. But even if no team other than the Heat is looking to directly trade for Damian Lillard, there's still the possibility of a team entering into the trade as a third party, right? The Nets are still being floated around as one of those teams that could sort of come in, bring some additional assets from their own roster into the mix here to help facilitate a trade. So that was part of what I was talking about before with Tyler Hero. Some of the trade packages people have put together have him going directly to Portland. Some have him going to a third team as compensation for that team getting involved in helping out. So the fact of the matter is there's still a lot of moving parts here because nothing has changed. This news isn't really news other than the fact that we still know that the teams aren't really all that close to a trade. The situation remains pretty much exactly where it has already been. Little to nothing has actually changed or developed here. The teams remain committed to this stalemate, to this game of trade chicken, and they'll probably remain so for the near future, right? One of these teams will have to blink first, but I think we still got a lot of time left in the off season, and they might wait quite a while. As I said before, though, I still say that the Heat are the ones who will likely either need or want to make the first move, to make the first shift here, to sacrifice some leverage, to actually get the ball rolling on this trade. But who knows? And that's the thing. Who knows? Because very little is happening. If there are any negotiations, we didn't hear about them with this latest bit of news, and it doesn't seem like the teams are any closer at this stage. So yeah, all of that is to say, Damian Lillard is still in Portland, still not a member of the Heat. The two teams still seem to be worlds apart here in terms of being on the same page for a trade to happen, and this will probably play out for a little while longer. This is still going to remain the story of the offseason. It may even drag into the regular season at this point because neither side seems overly inclined to sacrifice any bit of leverage, any bit of bargaining power here to actually try and move this trade forward. So, we'll see. The problem is that there's not a whole lot else going on in the league that would help move this at all, right? Most of free agency is done. There's still a couple of players sort of dangling out there in need of teams, but not too much that would affect this trade scenario. The Harden trade has sort of been held up as well. There doesn't appear to be a crazy amount of movement on that front. So I heard, some people mentioning maybe a Harden trade could act as the catalyst. If that trade happened, then that could encourage Portland and Miami to sort of get themselves in gear for their own trade. But Harden going anywhere is not really moving either. So this could stay the situation for quite some time. But that's it. Just wanted to get my thoughts out there. I know a lot of people were sort of excited and talking on the internet when the news of the latest trade package came out, but to be honest, I wanted to sort of rain on everyone's parade a little bit because yeah, it was a new package that was mentioned, but it still didn't lead to a whole lot. This is just trying to sort of hype things up for, well, not for no reason. We know why they're hyping this up, right? They're trying to keep this a story that can continue to be talked about, and here we are with our third or fourth video on it. So it is working, but it's not getting us any closer to a trade. But let me know what you think, right? Do you think that this new package means anything? Do you think it's significantly different from the last one people were talking about? Because looking up and down at it right now, it does still seem pretty similar to what we were talking about before. And what do you think about the leverage situations here? Should the Heat be trying to play this hardball game, try to salvage as many assets as they can? Should they just commit and make the trade happen? If you're Portland, do you think that their public perception is shifting any? I've mentioned I think that effect is being exaggerated a little bit. Maybe you disagree. Maybe you think Portland is building a bad reputation for itself with this Damian Lillard situation. But either way, let me know what you think. Let me know if and when you think that this trade is going to have any progress made towards it as well. Because if anybody's got their crystal ball out there, please feel free to share some dates with me. Because as of right now, we've got nothing. But other than that, thank you all so much for watching, and I will talk to you later.